Well, hello and welcome back. We're continuing our tutorial on MariaDB, MySQL, all that kind of good stuff. And today we're going to talk about triggers. It's something we haven't really covered yet. We've sort of seen them, but it's worth taking a closer look at those and talk about how we would build those out. Now first, let's talk about what is a trigger. A trigger is something that fires off when either an insert, an update, or delete is made on a table. So for example, what we've seen before is we've seen some default values. Those would, in a sense, be a trigger because although we're going to see something more specific, but they work in a similar way where it checks to see if a value is empty, and if it is, then it uses the default value and then does the insert or the update. Or I guess it's the insert in that case. There are some cases where we have seen, actually I'm not sure if we've looked at it yet, but there's some cases where you can have a delete that does not allow a record to delete if it's being referenced somewhere else. Now some of those things are built into the system, or at least part of the sort of default configuration you can make of a table. But there are other things that we can do. So we can create our own triggers. Now, triggers in general, let me go look at, are pretty easy to create. The way you do a create trigger is you use the command create trigger. You give the trigger a name, and you're going to say either before or after, because it's going to become before or after we either insert, update, or delete. And then it just is on a certain table for each row, and then you're going to do some code. So let's play around first. Let's see. Let's go look at our app user. And so here we have a password, email, username. We've got a couple different things here. Let's go ahead and say, we already have one on that. Let's go look at a different table. We already have something there. So let's go look at stats. So stats doesn't have anything terribly useful in it. So let's say after the fact, we want to come in and we're going to do an alter table, stats, add column, updated, timestamp. Just make sure I copy that because we don't want to do that. Okay, so now if we just grab stats, and we're going to see now we have that. It's a timestamp, so, oops, I don't want to do this a timestamp. My mistake. So now if I do from, let's see, start from stats. So now I'm going to get that update. Yeah, update is going to be there. So now if I do update stats, I want to do a date time instead. Apologies. Let's do set value 1 equal to 5 where stat ID equals 9. And then if we look, we're going to see where that was updated. So let's not use a timestamp. Let's use a date time. So let's look at a different table. I forgot that automatically. Timestamp will give us a timestamp. Let's do a lookup type. So we're going to look here, look up type. There we go. So now we're going to do, and we're going to do something a little more complicated. This is actually pretty easy to do as far as putting a timestamp in it, but let's see. So alter table, look at type, add column, updated date time. Now if we do a select star from lookup type, oops, let me get that alter in there so I can pull that up here. And so those are going to be nulls. And if I do an update, it's not going to do anything. But what I can do is now I'm going to do a create. Well, let's put this up here first. So I'm going to create trigger. I'm going to call it myFirstTrigger. And it's going to be before update, and then I am going to do, let's see, on lookup type. Lookup type for each row, and then I'm going to do my little thing. So what I'm going to do, and there is a, essentially it's a reserved word. So I can do, which is called old and new. So I can say new dot updated equals now. So if I take that, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it before the update. So we're going to do update. Look, this is really such a bad thing to do, but we're doing it just for showing purposes. Don't do anything this way. There's better ways to do it. Update lookup row set updated equal now. Okay, so now if I do, where's my select star? There. So now if I do update lookup type set name equal to undefined, where type ID equals 4. Oop, it's not lookup row, it's lookup type. So my mistake. I can't update because it's always being used. And so, okay, so I can't do that update. So this is really not going to be a good one. So let's do. Okay, let's go back to, because I can't do that. I need to do, so for each one, I think it's actually going to be, what is that set? Updated equals now. Let's try that. I think that's what I want. Whoop. Oh, it's because I don't have the, there we go, my mistake. Okay, so now if I do, where's that update statement? Oh, darn it. Okay, let's go back. So, okay, let's go look at select star. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. Okay, so if I'm going to select star, so they've all got this update. But now if I go back and do, there we go. Now if I do that and then do a select, now we're going to see that it was a slightly different, was it? Yeah, so it's a slightly different time. It's a few seconds later. So this goes back to, I'm sorry, it's a set. It's not just a new. So I have to set a value. So I could also do something like, I could do something more complicated. So let's do something here. I'm going to do this as my second trigger. And in this case, before an update, I want to say if new dot code equals empty, new dot code equals UNDF. So let's try that. Okay, so now I've got that. So now let's create, that's not an update. Darn it. I want to do that on insert. My mistake. So this is also going to give me sort of a oh, then that. So what I want to do is get a little more complicated, and we're going to create this new table called address audit. Hopefully this works. Okay. And what I'm doing here is it's the same as the address table, except it's got a timestamp added to it. And it doesn't do an auto increment. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do something a little more complicated. I'm going to say create or replace trigger. This is going to be my audit trigger. This is something that we will see probably more often than not. So before update on address. Let's make sure that's right. Yeah, for update for each row. And in this case, I guess we can do here, we can just do a straight, although we can do a begin and an end. We're going to go insert into address audit. And it's going to be ID, comma, name, comma, city, comma, state, comma, zip, comma, type ID. And then the values are going to be the same things except from the address table. And what we're going to do is we're going to say before we change something, we're going to copy it. Or we're going to say what it is that we're changing. So let's do, we'll keep it old. So what we're going to do, old dot. So what we're going to do now is, so this works. ID in old. ID, let's see. Oh. Down here. Did I have a different name for that? I did. Oh, it's T1 ID. So it's going to be old T1 ID. So I'm going to take the old ID, basically the old values, and copy them into, come here, the audit table. Name. I have a couple there that, okay, name, city, state, zip. Okay, so now it should work. There we go. So now if I do, this is before an update. So let's do select star from address. And we'll look at, and we'll also do address audit. We'll see if there's nothing in there. Nothing under my hat, nothing up my sleeve. And so now let's go do update address set address name equal my street where T1 ID equals 2. And so we're just going to change it from name 3 to address, or to my street. So that works. And if we select from address, we're going to see that now that's my street. But we're also going to see, if we go from address audit, we're going to see that it took that data from what we just changed and assigned that over to the audit table and gave us a date. So now we can actually go backwards and recreate data changes, which is definitely a much more typical business use for a trigger. Is it will use things like audits of some sort to either save a value that we're changing, or sometimes it's for checks and things like that. But typically what you want to do is something very simple, because triggers are done like while we're doing an update. So if you do an update without a trigger, it's going to be a lot faster, particularly if you do mass updates. That trigger is going to run each time. So if I go in and say update, let me go here, where did that update go from? Update address. In every case, and I'm going to set now type ID equals 2. if I do that, now if I go look at audit, see, I'm going to see it for each of those. So I did this mass update. So it took a little bit. It took 4/1000ths of a second, but it would be much faster if it was not kicking off that extra insert each time. So you also want to be careful what is it that I'm doing within my trigger. If you do something really complicated, so if you wanted to do like a select star against a table or something like that, or do some sort of complicated search, and you could end up really slowing down your performance. I think that'll wrap us up for now. I think that's probably a good stopping point as we're talking about our triggers. So we will come back and we'll just continue working through various MySQL things. But until then, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.